So, welcome to the Data Vault Friday. My name is Michael Olschimke. I'm the CEO of Scalefree, and we run this show here essentially for you guys to allow you to ask questions essentially about Data Vault 2.0, data-driven solutions, any cloud, data-driven cloud technology is all good. If you receive multiple questions, I would cherry pick. You can use the chat here. You can use the Q&A form of this client. You can also raise your hand if you want and maybe provide or ask a question directly or provide additional information. And then I'll show you a form after today's session where you can also submit your questions essentially. And yeah, it's time box, so we look at 10-15 minutes roughly to answer your question. And if there will be no question at all, I will talk about the cluster here. Now, we received a couple of questions actually, and I picked up one. Let me just show it to you. So this is from a consultant here, from a project, and they face a problem. So the problem is I don't have too much detail, but she's here as far as I know. So they have a source system where they get different source tables, like let's say a holding company, joint venture, different organization types essentially, but in different tables from the source system. And I assume, because there's also mentioning a couple of links here, there will be foreign keys between these tables. So there's relationships between these entities. And the question now is, should each source table, let's say a holding company, become its own hub and maybe a satellite? Holding company, hub, satellite, joint venture, hub and satellite, and so on? Or should there be only one hub and one satellite, or maybe multiple satellites? Now, in the consultant, you see some advantages, disadvantages. So when you essentially have one hub per company type, company form, you would have a lot of hubs and then a lot of links in between to connect those. I'm not sure where these links coming from. I assume it's foreign keys between those entities in the source system. If everything would be stored in one company entity, one company hub, essentially, there could be a problem with the with changing master data over time. We can solve that one. And yeah, it's a bit against what we teach. And let's talk about that one first. What do we teach in the bootcamp? Because in the bootcamp we talk about, first of all, a hub should only contain business keys that identify business objects of the same semantic meaning and the same granularity. That's number one. And we talk about supersetting and subsetting. And I call this session here today supersetting, because you should avoid in the raw data vault to put different business objects of a, let's say, maybe of a hierarchy into one hub, or break one hub apart. And we always talk about the partner data set in insurance and other industries, where a lot of clients would like to subset the partner database from the source system into individual hubs, or combine multiple source tables. Let's say, do we have a policy owner table and a counterparty table and so on? They want to combine that into one partner hub. And we always talk about to avoid that actually. Let's talk about the reasons for that, because that might give you some options here, or where you might stretch your line a bit, right? So the thing is, you want to avoid supersetting, subsetting, and you want to avoid having different granularities, different semantic meanings in one hub. It all belongs together somehow, right? Because you might face two issues. One is a granularity problem, not on the hub actually, but on the satellites. When you accidentally or whatever, when you put different business keys for different business objects at different granularities into one hub, it will work most probably on the hub, but the problem might occur on the satellite describing the hub, because when you receive the raw data, you might need to deal with those different granularities in your parent, in the hub, in the satellite's parent, the hub. You might have to deal with that by aggregating or disaggregating the incoming descriptive data. And that's what you want to avoid, because that's all business logic. That's what we want to avoid here. So avoiding the business logic, that's the goal here, right? And then the other thing is, if you have only one hub, let's say you combine all these different business objects into one hub. In that case, you're looking at a risk, but only a risk, that when you deal with links, let's say a non-historized link where you capture some transactions, payments, and so on, that you might only refer to this link, to this hub reference once, even though you should refer to the hub to two different business objects, and therefore to the same hub twice. We do this in the training. When I talk about customers and customers, And we talk about transactions, car seats sold to a customer, let's say a car maker, and then the employee, the procurement manager inside the car maker switches the employer. Is the transaction still related to the old car maker who purchased and sold and paid for the car seats, or is it related to the procurement manager? And in my humble opinion, both. So it's both related to the car maker because they purchase these products, they paid for it, and they use it in their cars. But also the decision might have been made to some extent by the procurement manager. And this person now works for another car maker, and I want to know the history across the different employees that this person was working for, right? So the transaction should be assigned to both. That's a key point here. And that's the risk you're facing when you combine that, let's say. Now, with that in mind, to avoid business logic, to make sure we capture the whole business transaction essentially, and to avoid any grain shifts when loading the raw data vault, because that's the underlying problems here we want to avoid, right? With that in mind, let's look at this. And my goal here for today is, just like every other day, is to find a valid model, right? That's the only requirement I have. Let's find a valid model, which might mean that we have to refactor it if something changes in your source system. Because the risk is, let's say you would decide to put everything into one hub. It might be valid, right? So the question is, can you reconstruct the original delivery? That's a key challenge. You can't do that, or what I wouldn't do is have only one satellite on one hub. I would create one hub for all these different organization types, and then, so there's only one hub involved, but then you have per source table, one satellite. And we typically teach, and we always say in the training, the first satellite split is by source system. And it's a bit misleading because, well, it's correct. But what my personal modeling style would say is to create one satellite per source table, per table in the source system, right? Well, the statement we make in the training is correct because you can denormalize tables. And that's why per source system is also correct. But I don't like to denormalize data from the source system. I need to have a reason for that. And given that fact, I typically create one table, one satellite per source table. So that's what I would do here as well. One hub, couple of satellites, one satellite per source table. And with that, you should be able to reconstruct the original delivery, actually. The problem is, I would only do that, one hub and couple of satellites, when we're looking at the same semantic meaning. So I wouldn't mix different meanings into the same hub, essentially. And that's the challenge here. So is it the same? And that actually can, to a bit, generalize. And we do this in some other places as well. When you look at the hierarchical link discussion in the training, we talk about parts, right? We have parts in a bill of materials relationship. And yeah, so it's a part data set from the source system. But there might be also other cases when you generalize a hierarchy. Let's say you have a mixed hierarchy between organization units and managers. And a manager is managing an organization unit, but could also be assigned to an organization unit, right? So if you have these mixed hierarchies, you could also generalize to some extent. On the other hand, much of that, we should also distinguish where we do what. So a lot of these actions I do in the business vault, in the raw data vault, my personal style is to stick to the source system as much as possible. So the statement here, this one here I like to some extent, to stick to the source system. But what I want to avoid is so many links here. So now I'm struggling a bit and trying to find the balance, right? So yeah, so for the raw data vault, I would try to stick to the source system, and the supersetting, subsetting, the combination, the generalization, I would try to do in the business vault. But as long as you can prove to me that you have a valid data vault model, that you can always reconstruct every source table, you're on a good side for now, right? That's all good. You're risking, if something changes here in the definitions or something, you're risking refactoring. But that's an immediate, an inherent risk anyway. So if something changes, then there you go. So the first step is valid. If it's valid, you can do not whatever. I mean, you can go for either option. But if you face issues, you would refactor it or re-engineer it. That's number one. So, with that in mind, both options should be fine. The question for me is, and I would go for one. I would prefer one hub and multiple satellites, but only if I can generalize this to a bit. So, if everything is for real a company, right? That's number one. If a holding company, a joint venture, those are all companies to some extent, right? So that would work for me at least. And a good indicator is maybe, I'm struggling a bit, right? So could be both ways, but let's look at the arguments for and against the decision now. A good argument would be, first of all, looking at different tables, but it contains the same business object. Give an example. In some not well-designed source systems, you face the same problem. You have two different customer tables, but they're just customers from US and customers from Europe. So it's all customers, right? And you can load these two tables into one hub. I would still create two satellites, right? But it's still one hub because you're looking at customers. That's it. There's no difference between the US customers and the European customers. It's just a bad source system design. So all good. And this could be the case here as well. It's just the same business object spread across different tables. An indicator could be, the question is, can the same organization be in different source tables? And what is the business key? If the business key would be the same, indicator for one hub. If it's different business keys, indicator for two hubs, because then there must be a reason why they have two different business keys for the same organization type, right? So, and the overlap is also a risk. So if there's an overlap involved, two hubs or multiple hubs. Like partner data sets in insurance, it's a prime example, because a partner could be everything. You could have for example, the policy owner could also be the person who pays for it, or could be a different person. There could be a counterparty, but a counterparty is also insured with you, so it's also a policy owner, right? So all this kind of stuff. That overlap leads to having multiple hubs, if that's the source data. Some arguments for it. The question would be, who generates the business key? Maybe there's a central table that's referred by all the other tables, right? Maybe there is a company table, and it's and the holding company has a foreign key to the company, and in the company table, that's where the business key is being generated. That's the indicator for one hub, multiple satellites. Lots of foreign keys could be an indicator. I'm not sure. We'll need to see the data set, but if everything is tied together by, tied together with foreign keys, then could be an indicator, maybe a weak indicator. The question is really, is it the same object, the same business object? That would be my driving force here. That would drive my decision, essentially. But then if you have more yeses on those fronts, right, you could go for one hub and multiple satellites. What I would do is, in every case, I would check, do you have a valid data vault model? By trying to model the data vault now, once you're done with the raw data vault, try to reconstruct every source table one-to-one without losing data, without artificially generating some data. If you can prove that on a realistic data set, you have a valid model, and you can always re-engineer a valid model to a better valid model. That's the basic idea. And yeah, and that risk you have anyway, but there could be a change every time in your source system, right? But that would drive my decision. So if the business key is generated by one table, if the business key is the same for even if let's say you have two records, one holding company, one joint venture, but it's the same business object, the same organization, same business key, also an indicator for one hub. Yeah, that's my answer essentially. Not a short answer, I agree, but it's why, yeah, you're here, right? So why humans do this. Okay, cool. So I get good feedback here. So I think I hit the point here. All right, cool. So if you have a question like this, perfect. Good question, actually. And yeah, just use this form here. Use this link, https://sfr.ee/dbfriday. That's where you can essentially yeah, type in your question, upload some pictures if you want, some drawings, all good. We also offer other webinars. When you go for scalefree.to/webinars, you get redirected to a website where we offer you two webinars, one on Warescape, one on DBT. Also, I mean, I'm not a tool expert here, but we have tool experts at Scalefree, and they talk about it. So not me. And they talk about essentially practices and best practices, typical topics from the tools space essentially. And it's very interesting. Once a month only, but we'll see. The more demand we get, the more questions we get, we might even extend the program. All right. And one last announcement before you leave. So I can't stop you anyway, but Data Dreamer is coming up. So we had a conference last year in Hanover. Was quite a success. 120 people showing up. It's all about data-driven solutions, all about many of them data-based, right? As you can imagine. A lot of customer presentations, vendor presentations, very cool stuff. 2 days in October 10 to 11. Hope to see you there, guys. To shake hands one day, right? So it's not just, shouldn't be just visual. That's a conference. So if you can make it, block a calendar, join us there, would be nice. Cool. All right. Thanks for the question, and hope I wish you a nice weekend, and see you hopefully next Friday, same time, 11 o'clock Central European Standard Time. Thank you guys. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks for joining today. If you'd like to discuss this further, give us a call on the number below here, and we're happy to discuss this with you. See you next time. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.